day or so, looking at how we can support our colleagues in Ireland in terms of business development. Just maybe it's one of you want to talk through what we've done. Dermot,
I think it's been a really eye-opening couple of days. We've had insight from external stakeholders in the market, which has given us a fresh look, I think, at how things are operating in Ireland at the moment, and it's a particularly exciting time. A lot changing. We had Airgrid in here, the transmission operator, explaining to us some of the challenges they face. And as a group, I think we've all had plenty of time for reflection. I think one of the other takeaways I have from the conversations we've had is that there's a case for us to really go back to basics in terms of how we address the customers. Getting more customer face-to-face time was a recurring thread throughout the conversations. And I think what we've also managed to do, hopefully, is break down the post-session requirements into more bite-sized chunks and things we can take away. So, yeah, massively positive. I think what we're looking at doing now, I think, is not just treating Ireland as a footnote in the GB&I and giving it that additional focus that maybe we haven't been able to do in the past.
Great. Faye, any thoughts on that?
For me, it's been really good to almost tap into a lot of the expertise within Siemens. There's so much knowledge there from different areas. Everyone's got different experience from different countries. And although different countries have the different challenges, we're all thinking along the same lines and how can we approach them. So it's been really good to see everybody's perspectives and zone into that one customer instance and say, does anyone have any similar background and how did we approach it? So sort of sharing knowledge within our own company has been really interesting.
Alec?
I agree with that. I thought that was the highlight of today, was hearing Jim sort of going through just his methodology and how he goes about sales, and also the stuff from Aidan from Energy Management, just sort of talking about different ways he dealt with trying to grow the business in the last few years and kind of not following the standard Siemens procedures and trying to do things differently. I think there's quite a lot we can learn from that.
It's a great success story that Aidan gave us about how they've moved it in such a small team as well, but I think we've made a really significant change.
Yeah, and I think some of those changes were the way things have always been, Aidan was prepared to change. So the idea that, we had to have Siemens Ireland people going to serve Siemens Ireland customers, he broke that, and now he's actually facilitating, the best parts of Siemens to support customers in Ireland coming in, even though they're not part of Siemens Ireland. And I thought that I think was quite motivating for me, because I thought that's something we could do as well,
Yeah.
And that's one of your key takeaways from your actions as to how you can perhaps mirror that and implement that in your work as well.
I think that's a really positive way to look at it. So Aidan, as he explains, saw a kind of paradigm shift, and maybe we are going to experience something similar, but we don't necessarily have to just see things as threats. There are opportunities there around the grid services, the DS3 that we spoke of. It's not going to be business as usual, but it doesn't mean that that's the end of the road in terms of opportunities.
I think as well, the other thing that kind of emerged for me that was important, and I was really glad that Ross Allen from Distributed Generation and Dresser Ran Service was here, because that's just something we haven't had visibility of in the past, and I think that's part of reframing what our market is. And we think in terms of the large utilities, but there's this whole other kind of part of Siemens that exists within Ireland that is probably underserved by us, and there's real opportunity there, I think, if we put some effort in. I'm really happy, Faye, that you're going to be helping us out with that as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, yeah.
Dermot, what was your highlight?
Well, there's a few, I think, but probably, Alec already touched on Jim's presentation, and that to me was a highlight of sorts. But probably the biggest takeaway for me will be the grid services piece by EirGrid. I find that fascinating because I'm quite well versed in the UK system and what's happening there. So to see both the similarities and the differences was interesting, and I thought you know, to have that level of engagement as well from the TSO is really exceptional, I think, and I think we can take that as a compliment, and you guys can take it as a compliment in Ireland that you have those relationships, that people are willing to pick up the phone and also come and dedicate that time, and also, you know, take our opinions. So maybe we should also be looking at not only how can we benefit from the outcomes, but maybe how we can shape them as well, moving forward if those doors are open.
And you know, it's quite interesting because it wasn't hard to get EirGrid to come and talk to us. I just called them up 2 weeks ago. I found an email from somebody in EirGrid who I had no idea who he was, and I had a phone number, and I just called it. And I was quite uncomfortable doing it because I think, you know, it's not the proper channels or whatever. But he put me in contact with actually the guys who came from EirGrid today, and they were nothing but positive and open towards engaging with us. And I think it's you know, how do we just make that first phone call that feels uncomfortable and feels a bit abnormal? But I think that's part of what we need to do more of is just start talking to people, you know, and get out of our comfort zone a little bit.
Okay. Alec, your highlight?
I think probably the Huntsdown visit. I think on both these sessions, just having a customer to come in and kind of give us an external view on things, and just adds an extra dimension. And as a finance guy, I don't see that in customers. It's good to have that sort of round table discussion that's quite open and varied the way the discussion goes.
Great. Dave, your highlight?
I would agree really with the one with Understand, that it just goes to show that almost no matter how many customers you work with and how well you feel like you know the customer base, they all have different opinions, different perspectives, and there's almost no beating just asking them those simple questions. What works, what doesn't work. And one of them I was surprised with was when they said they like to tap into the expertise, they like to go to the different countries, whereas customers I've worked with have said they want one contact. So it just shows you need to have those conversations to know what to build upon, what's working. So that was really interesting to hear, and I think it's something that if it's followed up on and it's regular, it just builds that relationship, strengthens it more.
Excellent. And Dave, your highlight?
I think
Go on swimming.
going swimming. Going swimming was fun this morning at dawn. No, I think my highlight was the way in which the meeting is being held. So, you know, I really enjoyed the EirGrid session. I really enjoyed Jim's talking about, you know, this is actually how I go out and get stuff done. And I enjoyed the Huntsdown stuff as well. But I think I find myself often at meetings within Siemens, and I'm wondering what's the real value of this, what comes out of it. And I think I had a sense at this meeting that there's the opportunity to really change things and for us to be learning something new. And so I think the willingness for the people in the room to listen generously to each other and be open to new things. And I was actually really surprised when I said to Stefan, are you up for sending direct offers to Ireland? Because I was holding an assumption it's going to be no, that's not what we do. And his response was, yes, why not? Why don't we try it? You know, so and I think that we created the environment for that was partially, you know, supportive of people trying to think about how to do things differently. So that was a real positive for me.